This is from Die Hard 5, which is not a real movie. Doesn't exist, never happened, all right? As much as... hello, and welcome to officially the most expensive review I've ever made in this channel. So if I didn't put 17 or 18 gemstones in the title, I apologize. Zeos, put some gemstones in the title. So, these. So you know this bit, right? I actually reviewed the blue set that, I opened that window, now there's dust on it. Actually, the blue set. These are the MON Acoustics, the Platimon VC1. And I didn't really say the VC1 part when I reviewed the blue set. And then I ended up buying one in silver. This is all aluminum, by the way. This is not like painted. This is just aluminum. And it does that thing where it's on tungsten balls so it can settle. And I had the real stands over there. But the thing is, these are the VC1s. And they're my favorite. They're the speaker to the point where I bought them. And they were $6,000 a pair. And I'm like, can you give me a deal? And they're like, yeah, we'll find you a set that nobody wants. And apparently no one wants fucking silver. And so I got them. And then a few months passed. And they're like, hey, the VC2 is almost ready. And I'm like, the what now? And I see a picture of it. And I thought it was just a speaker on its own. Because it's got a tweeter. It's got a woofer. It's got ports in the back. And I'm like, oh, look at that. And they're like, no, that replaces the stand. So, these are between $11,000 and $12,000 for the bottom bit, which is why this is so fucking expensive, this review. And I'm just like, my stomach. So, I can wrap my head around $6,000 for the most invisible set of speakers I've ever heard, and they're only dual 5 1/4s. And go watch my original review of the Platimons. Got a lot of views. Zeos, best thing I've reviewed. Fucking bought them. They never leave my space here. All right, they are my reference speaker because when I listen to them, I don't listen to them. Don't you understand how fucking infuriating being an audio reviewer is? Where if I listen to this speaker, this speaker, this speaker, this speaker, this speaker, that speaker, I have to listen to the speaker. And I'm like, that sounds good. But these, the VC1s, were the only speaker that after I got them placed right and amped right, and we'll talk about the Orchard Audio, because I bought a set of the LPS monoblocks for these. After you got them set up, and I put them on the Orchard Audio amplifiers, which I'll link in the description, which have no change to the sound due to them, all of a sudden, all I was doing is listening to music, and that is a fucking rarity on this channel, where I just listen to music, where I'm not listening to the speaker, or the headphone, or the IM. You know what? I just want to hear the Die Hard 5 Into the Vault track, which I actually don't want to hear that. Ooh, we can put on drums and bells, because that'll scare the shit out of everyone at home. So, bought the Platimon VC1s. Months later, they're like, hey, the Platimon VC2s are coming. We'll get you a set in matching silver to review. And then if you decide you like them, you could keep them for a discount, which, did I mention that they're $11,000? And there's not like nothing here. These are 70 pounds of also aluminum. And they do this wild thing in the back, which we're going to talk about. And there's 3 ports, and you get all these beautiful machine, like MON port plugs with the foam wrapped around it. I got to talk about that. Because, all right, how do I start this? I know we've been going for like 6 minutes already, and I'm just wondering how to start it. Because Zeos doesn't start a video with a plan. I have a general idea, and then I just move forward through it with poetry. So, favorite speakers, and they do that thing where they just disappear and they become nothing. Get the VC2s, unpack them individually, get them down here, put them on furniture sliders, and try to figure out, is it here now, is it there? The way that I like these speakers is as far apart as physically possible and perfectly parallel. That's how they work the best. So I was trying to do other things with it on the bottom, with that on there in place. And then there's 2 ways to hook these up. Well, actually, there are 3 ways to hook these up. Maybe even 4 ways to hook these up. I'm taking the camera off my head for a second. Hold on. This is the madness we're about to go into. You've seen my face before. Every Munich video has been in my face, so here we go. So the back of this I can't even call it a speaker, because technically it isn't a speaker. This is an add-on, this is an $11,000 add-on module for this. I've never seen a company sell two-part speakers before. It's super interesting. So on the back, we have got a switch, which goes through many different points, and I'll explain those. We've got the inputs for the VC2, the bass, a port, and output, which you can then hook up to the VC1. I love how it does that. And what this will do is amplifier comes in, there's a crossover network inside of the bass, which you can do selectable things to, and that will choose what to output to the VC1, which obviously still has its own crossover built into it, so that it can communicate and work better. And so here's the deal. All right, here's the deal. Wish it was a mirror. When you hook up that to this, these are no more. When you hook it up in a four-way mode, where it is one driver, two drivers, three drivers, four drivers. When you hook it up in four-way mode, there's 3.5-way and 4-way. When you do what I just said, where you plug in your amplifier to the bass, and then you come out of the bass and into the VC1, the top part, these are no longer that speaker. And it kind of threw me off, because I fucking love this speaker. I bought it. I don't buy things. I'll buy audio gear. Well, fuck, I had to have it. So now, added together as a sum total, it became something else. It became an audiophile speaker. And I mean that kind of in a negative way. Whereas the magic of the VC1 was that it disappeared and I didn't have to listen to a speaker. I could just listen to my music. All of a sudden, it was a bit warmer. It was you're adding an 8-inch driver on the front, and it's now, and there's issues we're going to talk about, and the fucking insanity that I have currently hooked up to make this thing make me happy. There's a happiness level that I wanted to find after coming back from Munich. I'm filming this 1.5 weeks, 2 weeks post Munich. And so I got to hear a lot of systems, and some of them were insanely good. Those albedos were fucking so good in Italian and 9 feet tall. And it's like, so I came home after having this set up in this house for probably 2-3 months. And I went, all right, no. Fucking today, I'm going to see if I can beat everything I heard in Munich in my basement today. And so I set off on a 3 or 4 day journey of mini DSPs and multi-DACs and room corrections. And oh my fucking God, I'm ready. Let's hold on, wait. Let's skip forward a little bit. So this is Drums and Bells from an album called Comparing Sticks, and you literally can't find it anywhere. Like, my friend bought the CD from the internet because there's no, I don't even know if it'll show up on copyright if I play it. In fact, I might want to get a copyright, not strike, but warning, and be like, oh, I can buy this? Show me who has it. Because it's like real. And there's some bass notes that kick in and you're like, holy shit, did everyone just die? So, ignoring music for a second, which is never good. Never go to an audio channel that ignores the music. I just want to play music all the time. And there just happens to be a whole fuckload of expensive gear here to do that with. So, with the standard configurations you had the choice of with the VC1 and VC2, you got to either wire through the speaker and up, or if you like the sound of your Platimon VC1s, which you should if you trusted me, if you've heard them, you can bypass the crossovers inside the bass and literally just jump out. So you power the bottom unit and you have jumpers that come out and just go straight into the speaker. So you essentially throw away the crossover that is built into this and you still get the switches. I actually have these. They will sell you a pair of cables, but I just needed a set of spades that went to a set of bananas so that you can just bypass. So that's called a 3.5-way. And I liked it. I also tried doing a thing because, and the manual will not tell you to do this, but I'm Zeus and I want to find the best case scenario regardless. I ran the top speakers out of phase of the bottom And I found that gave me a much more cohesive center channel, like centering effect. There's a fucking fly in here. And I don't have my bug assault. So here's the thing. This is the most tweakable fucking setup in audio history, besides Wilson's with the knobs and where they move everything. Because I've never seen a speaker that's sold in two parts before either. Where you get like the main part, the main body. That's its own thing. I was happy as a pig in shit with just the VC1s. And then they're like, well, that's the top half. Now, do you want to try the bottom half? And combine it together like some sort of fucking weird transformer from Korea. Because, by the way, these are Korean made. Which is why the expense comes into it. Because they must just be stealing all the aluminum in Korea. So, when you add the VC2 to the VC1, no matter what your settings are, no matter which way you wire it up, it's a different speaker. I was going to review this like, oh, it's an add-on module, so take my normal speaker, and then we just have this thing, and we're good. Oh, just add some bass. Just adding some bass is not $11,000 or $12,000 worth of shit. So hold on. Let me bring up the product archive. So there you can see Platimon virtual coaxial. $6,600 plus sales tax, because that's actually gone up. And then Virtual Coaxial 2, $12,100 plus sales tax. Oh, I'm going to die. But then, so here's the thing. If you go to the Coaxial 2 for the $12,000 base, and you decide to not add anything to the color, because it doesn't notice there's no silver. They'll have the only silver set like in existence. Because they offer black and navy. And then if you don't add a $600 jumper cable that's better than the normal one, and you don't go with Revo Pod feet, which are $2,400, if you stock, and then add the VC1s, order total is $18,100. But wait, I've hacked the Gibson. If you go to the actual VC1 web page, and it's $6,600 plus sales tax, where you can order it in silver, you can add the towers for $11,000, making the total only $17,600. So you could order the same thing on this. I'm going to tell them, and they'll probably fix it. But as of this very moment, if you're a patron and you're watching this video a little bit early, there's a good chance you could save like $500 because the prices are weird. They show the VC1s at $6,000, and they show this at $11,000. Okay, so here's the switch in the back. Let's just get this out of the way. Because you have the choice of off, which doesn't turn the whole thing off. I thought that if you turned it to off, it would just pass through and you just use the VC1. That is not the case. It's just not off. And I've gone back and forth with my contact at MON, and he's tried to explain it to me, and I sort of get it. But the truth is in the listening. So you get a 5-position switch on the back of each bass unit, in the back of the VC2s. And when you set it to off, it's not. It still works. And then HT stands for harmonized tweeter. And you have 3 different settings of that, which doesn't use the super tweeter, which you're paying tons of money for. It's the way that the crossover internally is affecting how this blends with the bass unit. And then at the very last thing, you have ST, which is super tweeter. And so here's the conundrum. When you just have this hooked up normally, like it's intended to, where you're wiring from top to bottom, the thing that bothered me the most was not the sound change. It got a little bit warmer. It got a little bit more musical. I'm accepting of that, all right? You're buying an $18,000 official audiophile holy fuck set of speakers. What bothered me was that it brought the centering down. Because if you sit down in a spot here, and my tweeters are on top of these, they are perfectly in line with like my nose. They're a little bit below my eye level. Those tweeters are great. But now we've got more tweeters and more woofers, and everything's going down. And so I went from a center image up on the television to probably around the bottom half of you see that down there? There's a speaker. So it was just a weird drop. And I'm like, shit, how do I fix that? Huh. Well, I guess I don't have to use the bass bins. I don't want to call them bass bins. They're fucking $11,000. They better do more than be bass bins. And they do. But I don't want to just use those and these and have to sacrifice anything. How could I fix this with science? Because if nothing else, I am an acoustical scientist. Not a good one. Not a certified one. Like you say to show me your references, I'll just stab you and put you in a cooler. But I like fucking around until I find something good. That's the joy of the hobby. Right? Everyone's like, oh, vinyl is more art than science. You get to build cool things to make it not shake, and you get to play with the way the weights go, and all the tone armor is made of solid Gundanium. That's better. It's a very physical thing, fucking around with like vinyl. So how do I do that equivalent here in my lab just on speakers? And the answer is Mini DSP. So I'm going to continually play just music. Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga has some incredible fucking bass drops. I just don't know where they are. There they are. Battleground from Vinland Saga. So, I should probably tell you this is the best sounding thing in my basement. And it wasn't until I started fucking around extra hard. So I ordered another set of amps from Leo. I got the big fucking toroidal transformed linear power supply monsters, which are the same power as his other amplifiers. In fact, that amplifier and that amplifier should be the same. But man, there's just something about it. Look, it's 9, 10, 12 pound toroidal transformer that just makes you feel it. Go watch my review of my original review of those, because these are the new version 2 that have 12 volt trigger inputs with their RCA. It's so weird. If you want me to re-review that, let me know in the comments. Because I did spend a bunch of money on it. Oh, Valencia money is right there. You're looking at it. I love doing collabs that don't actually pay me. They just get me that. So, all right, let me explain how this is actually working right now. Because, and this is not something you have to do. If you buy the VC1s and you love them, and you have the dough to spend on the VC2s, and you want to know what the creator's entire vision is, by all means, get it, put it in place, flip the switches, close the ports, because there are 3 ports on this thing, by the way. I'm hesitant to like take the whole thing apart, lay it down on the floor to show you, but there is, try not to step on anything, there's one port back here, which you can easily plug. You just take this, it's labeled, it's got 2 pieces of foam on it, and you go back here and you stick it in there, and there, it's port plugged. Now, that's great. Great for tuning. There are 3 ports on this unit. 2 of them are on the bottom, and they're different sizes. So you get a super tweeter, a beryllium super tweeter, which is probably where most of the cost comes in these, by the way. And then you get the driver, which looks very basic, sitting there. But then the aluminum enclosure has a rear port that's, that big, a similar sized bottom facing port, and then a big bottom facing port. And you can close, I think, both small ports, or maybe you can plug the big port, or you can plug any combination of the ports. And I'm just like, I rub my face and I'm like, oh, fucking God, I'm never going to get this review done. I'm going to spend my entire life just fucking closing ports. Because that's the level of adjustment between the 5-way switch on the back that lets you pick between harmonized tweeters or super tweeter use or off, and then 3 pluggable ports, and then 2 different wiring options from the bottom to the top, and then I added a 3rd one where I worked it out of phase. Holy shit. This is a complicated fucking setup. So fuck all that. Let's do this digitally. So, we'll start with the source. Music is coming off of this little computer here. Hello. You're going out into the Matrix Audio Expeditive 3, which gives me a bunch of digital outputs, AES, optical, coaxial, II2S, all those. All get shitted on the floor in all different directions. Then where do we go? Well, the AES is now coming up to this mini DSP, the SHD Studio. If you don't know what this is, I haven't reviewed it. I purchased it for exclusive use with the Fluid Image 2s, the $3,500 speakers with the side frame that took digital inputs. I'm like, this will be great for just controlling a digital volume. So it has the AES in, and it has 2 AES out, 2 channels apiece. So now I have control of 4 channels fully in a mini DSP. And then I've got a USB cable coming over to my laptop so I could deal with things right here instead of working on the TV. And it gives me music in, where's my remote? Put in my pants. If I play any music, you can see everything lights up and it makes all the go. So now, fuck, I hate the Beatles. It's just so shit recorded. I'm sorry, everyone who likes the Beatles. Either you're going to respect me for giving that opinion, or you're going to hate me. But this is the worst sounding thing I've ever heard, and I love these speakers, so...
Look, Scratchy! It's our new friend, Poochie! What's that name again?
Poochie. Epic score. That I can play. So, what have I done here? So now that I've got the signal coming in AES into the mini DSP, I actually also have one of those outputs going to a DAC down here that's going to this, which is now going over to the HSU sub, so I can just mute or integrate the sub at my leisure. That doesn't get control with DSP. So I bring it in. I now have the Platimon left and right and the bass left and right. I could call them VC1 and 2, but it's more confusing that way. And then I get to pick, well, that's a left channel, and that's a left channel, and that's a right channel, that's a right channel. And I did do Dirac correction, but only after I messed around with parametric equalization for the bass units and a crossover setting for the upper VC2s or VC1s. Because those speakers on top should not be required to do anything low end. When they're on their own, when you get a pair of speakers and it's on its own, if it can do 35 hertz, you let it. And then if you put in a subwoofer and you want to alleviate some of like the stress and strain, wherever you set it, 55 hertz, and then the subwoofer takes over from there. So now that we have the VC2 bins at the bottom, I decided we were going to get cut off at 40 hertz was where the actual dip was going to happen. I didn't want those top ones playing anything below 40 hertz. And that seems very low, but they can do it. And I also wanted to bring that center imaging problem that I had up. And by that is take that 8-inch and not let it do anything above, like, I think where that comes in is like 45. I'll show you that, which is a fucking nightmare. And please don't judge me for it. Here's my parametric equalization curve to control the bottom, because I want that super tweeter involved, because it does add this like brilliant sparkle to the sound that I love the tweeter in the VC1, but it's a fucking expensive beryllium super tweeter. I'm not letting it sit dormant. And you can tell when you're sitting here that it's on, but you can't tell where it is, which is the goal. So I actually have it pretty much leveled out bass. The dip again starts around 35. So it keeps that bass bin from doing anything in the mid-range. The biggest problem I have with the VC2s is that with the default setting, with the plug in the wire and pass it through, if you don't hook up the VC1s and you just play the bottoms on ST mode, they're almost a speaker. You're getting stuff out of the tweeter that is recognizable as music and vocals, and you're getting stuff out of the bass bin that's recognizable as, it goes up into the vocal range. So it's basically you're putting a speaker on a speaker, and no matter what you do with the crossover at the top, you're focusing a lot of it on the bottom. And I wanted to actually gimp the VC2 a little bit to not take over that amount of sound. If I want to, I can... How would I do this? Oh, I can just mute it here. Here, this is the best part about all this sort of stuff. I can just mute or phase invert or compress. So now the top VC1s are no longer in play. The amplifiers will not get signal. The DACs, by the way, I should probably point out that I am using 2 DACs for this. The only way this system works with the mini DSP is It's getting AES in. It's now getting split. And I have 4 channels. And I need 2 separate DACs to go to all the amplifiers. So I'm using a Gustard X16, which I've now pretty much adopted for the big Platimon linear power supplies. Because the Gustard is a better DAC than the topping DX9. The DX9 is what I've been using here for fucking 2 years. And I brought the Gustard out because I just needed another amp, another DAC with AES input. And after comparing the two, there's like a depth thing, man. I'm kind of tempted to reach out to Holo and see if he'll sell me 2 cyans. Because if you have cyans are basically big dumb bricks that just make analog go. And this is now what's controlling the volume. So I'm actually crushing the digital signal here. So I could just put 2 identical DACs there and not have to worry about anything. I did have to do a little bit of a 5 millisecond delay correction, and I'm not sure if that's because I'm using 2 different DACs or if because it's just the way the phasing worked in this room. I like to point out that if you went to Munich or any audio show and there was just a really expensive speaker setup a foot away from a wall, parallel, like this is not a normal thing. The Zeos, shouldn't you have them like 1/3 of the way into the room and slightly angled toward? No. These are not normal. These have never been normal, and they're just getting more and more abnormal as I sit here talking to you. So please pay attention and come along for this journey. So now, if I play music, and if I shut off the parametric equalization, which can I just turn it off, or do I have to actually go into it? I have to go in there and actually bypass it. Hold on. Oh, I gotta bypass everyone individually? It's not worth it. Okay, but anyway, what you're hearing now is just the VC2 modules with what I've stripped them down to. Just the low end and just the treble, I'm allowing them to play. If I was able to disable that entirely, which I think if I switch to a different... All right, we're on preset 1. I'm switching to preset Preox Morlana 4. And that should completely erase things. Then I can go in here and disable... How do I just disable all of it? Load defaults, do menu options, and you could do tie downs. All right, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now on in this profile, if I mute the other ones again, so now this, that's just the bass modules. That's them without the speakers on top working. That's how much sound they're adding when I go straight from, this is unabashed signal straight into that Stark Crimson Ultra, into these bass modules, and it sounds, we'll get to a song that actually has singing in it. That's nearly a speaker. It's a speaker missing all the mid-range, because what happens is it's trying to use the VC1s as the entire focused murder mid-range box. And it's weird to blend those two things together like that when they're not like, considering that that's a virtual coaxial, which is designed to make it like very beam focused, very, very straight and narrow. But now you're lumping these things on that are so much lower than it. It's just a physical distance miscalculation. Like if that was somehow in the middle of it and then this was both up on the stands, I wouldn't have a problem. But we're adding so much below it. And it's... Now if I mute those and I take the speakers... Obviously the speakers are there, they're more prevalent, but they're playing the same source. So let me go back to my shit, I hope it's on preset 1, right? Yeah. Okay, good. So if I go back to preset 1 now, much less in the warm tones. I put that back into the speakers. Bring the warm tones up. Keep that for just bass. Anything below, I think I have those set to cross over. Yeah, like what, 40? No, those are the big speakers. These are not set to cross over at all. These are getting fed straight down to 0. but they're not capable of that. Obviously, they're not. They're only an 8-inch driver in an aluminum box. No matter how many ports you put, you're not fucking with the laws of physics. You're not getting 15 hertz out of the VC2s. That is where the HSU comes in. Now, the guy who runs MON Acoustics doesn't believe in subwoofers. I asked straight up, hey, are you ever coming out with a subwoofer? And the representative was like, no, he doesn't believe in subwoofers. Now, I believe in subwoofers because, well, I fucking do. Like, they exist, they work, they can put them in spots where it doesn't have to be in the room. One of the biggest problems I have with tower speakers in general is when you use a tower and you try to get all your bass out of a tower speaker, you're kind of restricted to putting the tower speaker where the tower speaker goes. And that may not be the best place to generate, 16 hertz. Because room modes exist. So you get to do the sub crawl for a subwoofer and then find the exact point and then stick your giant subwoofer wherever it needs to be. This one needs to be right there, about 3 inches off that wall. And if I slide it back and forth 6 inches, it makes a huge difference. But it's perfect right there for that spot where I'm listening. With a tower, you're kind of SOL. You have to put the tower where the tower sounds best for probably the mid-range of the treble. And if the bass sounds a little wonky or a little weird, well, then you're pretty fucked unless you're doing room correction. So, on top of me doing an EQ profile for this, to sort of remove the mid-range out of it, and on top of doing, stealing everything super low end out of that, and integrating the subwoofer into it, on top of all of that, and the multiple amplifiers, I ran Dirac on it. Because this mini DSP just happens to have a Dirac license attached to it, which means I get the microphone out, and it makes me do here, here, here. It did a 9-point room correction for a very precise listening, and if you've never used a room correction software, I like to avoid them. Mostly, if I'm doing a speaker, if I'm doing like just get a pair of speakers, just the Fosse speakers, the Fosse SP601s, I set them up, I moved them until they sounded good, and I did the review. I don't want to be responsible for sitting there and doing the microphone corrections for every single speaker because it tends to take away from that speaker's general characteristic. Like, what makes this speaker a speaker? Oh, you're using room correction to try to like correct it? That was one of my problems with those headphone apps that would be like, oh, you have HC600s? Load our profile to correct HC600s. Why? I want my headphones to sound like HC600s. I want my fucking AKGs to sound like AKGs. I want my fucking Grados. All right, correction. Fix the Grados, for love of God, please. But I'm not one of those people who thinks everything should be neutral and flat and everything should be reaching for this Harman curve. I don't believe in that. But I do believe that rooms fuck things up more than anyone can imagine. So this room being, there's 8 inches of insulation above it. You bastard. I love doing a review of an $18,000 or $17,000 set of speakers. There's just a fly in here. It's going to turn into Breaking Bad. You watch. Anyway. Fuck, it made me lose my train of thought. Oh, room correction. I felt like with this speaker, with where I wanted to be, with the goal I set forth, I want this to sound better than the shit I heard in Munich. Room correction is going to be a thing. And I actually might do a second channel video. If you haven't followed my second channel where I took the speakers outside, I may do a second channel video where I don't just do Dirac correction on a speaker. I can then layer the Sound ID from SonarWorks correction on top of that. Because that microphone thing is a whole other set of things I got to do. And then I got to have multiple speaker corrections for the room and the speaker. So that'll be fun or terrible. I don't know. I've never heard anyone do it before. So we got to do it together. All right. So now that's how much is coming out of those, which it's such a weird thing to try to like tell people. Yeah. So that's $6,000 and that's 12. So that's twice as much as this. Is it doing twice as much for the sound than this is? And I don't think it is. If that was also $6,000 and these are $6,000 and the whole thing was 12, I wouldn't have a huge, I would still feel absolutely sick because of the cost we're talking about here. And I'm usually the cheap audiophile asshole. But 12 is a lot. And when you use them on their own, as intended with the 4.0 or the 3.5, wiring solution, you get a sound that you don't get from just the VC1. It does change the speaker entirely. I think the layout is weird. I think the layout is what hurts it the most because it's trying to do things so much farther below the other speakers that you just bring everything down. And that's a big thing that bothers me. I did it on the Philharmonic speakers, the Philharmonic home theater towers, where there was just too much stuff focused below it, and it brought that center image down. And you can't compete with that. You can't fix that unless you're doing some wild multi-DAC DSP correction shit where you're delaying the top versus the bottom to recorrect where the waves go. I'm doing so much to these speakers, not because I think 100% they need it, but because I'm looking to squeeze every fucking modicum of quality and depth. And let me unmute the speaker so it's more impressive when I hit play on these things. Hold on. And this, when Andrea Botticelli is playing, because remember, we got to go back to music. It's always back to music. If I just sit here yelling about hardware and amps and speakers and connections and DSP, and there isn't fucking music playing, what are you in this hobby for? That's another thing. It's that listening to music is as pure a hobby as it gets. Because even if you're into cars, a car, you can still get places. It takes you places you can go. And yeah, you can use a cheaper car, but you like collecting watches? At least a watch tells you the time. Got a $30,000 Rolex watch, still tells you the time. No one needs to be doing anything high-end in audio. We could just listen on the shitty car's radio speakers that come out and fucking my Bluetooth speaker. That's fine. It's fine. It does the same thing. Doesn't it do the same thing? This is pure hobby bullshit. That's what audio is. Every one of us is sick. It's like, hey, could you imagine? I'm trying to imagine myself on the outside where I come into someone's house and they're like, hey, you hear this new song? And they play it on their like Beats Pro pill pod. And it's like, and I get angry. And I shouldn't. I should just enjoy the music. But now here we are in my basement with a setup that's worth way more than any car I'll ever own. Unless I do eventually buy an Ariel Atom. I so want one of those. Top Gear ruined me as a child. So now, with everything set up the way it is, because this is the whole reason I started this review. If you have that, this is kind of like a re-review of the VC1s. This is a semi-review of those amplifiers. And this is kind of introduction to like the madness that is mini DSP and room corrections. With everything tied together, and I fucking hate this word, the synergy. Gag in my mouth. I think this sounds better than pretty much almost everything I heard in Munich. Granted, this is now tuned to my tastes, personally. And anyone who's ever heard Eris will know what that means. It's like, oh, Zios has weird tastes. But my taste for headphones is different and varying, and same as IEMs, and the same as speakers. There's some things I want to hear in like a cheap headphone or a cheap IM that if I whip out a $18,000, I'm going to keep varying from $18,000 to $1,000 set of speakers, I want to hear something different. I want to hear nothing. I want to go back to hearing just the fucking music. I want to move that up. This is the Splinter Cell OST. Here, I want to mute the sub. I'll mute the sub. Bam, sub muted. It's still got this like fine detail. Because now, keep in mind, these are just getting fed directly Gustard, monoblock, this. And the only modifications that's happening now to the VC1 is I'm cutting it off at 40 hertz. Don't even try. Please don't try. And what that allows me to do is give it a little bit more oomph to make it go. So a lot of the modification is just to get that to blend with what I've revealed now. Got plenty of power. And then if the subwoofer comes on, then the fucking subwoofer comes on. So as a whole, this is the best sounding thing that's ever been in my house. Do I think I'm personally going to buy the VC2s? Do I think this setup would be ruined if I took those out of here or just replaced them with like small little subs? I would miss that super tweeter. That's the thing is, when you have an expensive set of fucking speakers and they have that as the tweeter to start, you got to go way up to make it worth it. Like I have those Aperion add-on modules up in my bedroom that are just little tweeters you put on top of something, and there you go. You have a super tweeter. That's like $1,000. I guarantee you those berylliums with the waveguide made out of solid aluminum would just cost more than that entirely and are more capable. So the only way to add something on top of a $6,000 speakers, or in this case under it, to make it worthwhile is to make it fucking expensive. And I don't just mean make it expensive for the sake of it. I mean use parts that are like absurd. Because that's the only way. And as I listen to, again, we'll back to Splinter Cell. There is no way that the microphones in this DJI Pocket 2 can pick up the nuance of these little fucking, just these little scratchy sounds that I know are coming from that super tweeter. Just that little bit I've added on there. It's like adding salt to French fries. You eat French fries, and the mass of the French fry is the oil and the crispiness and the potato. If you weighed out a thing of French fries, it would weigh, 3 pounds. I don't know, 1.4 kilograms, whatever the hell you want to talk about it. But now imagine how much the salt weighs. The sprinkling of salt onto 3 pounds of French fries makes all the difference. And that's what shit like that super tweeter does. The fact that I have to, or the fact that I felt like I needed to do all sorts of DSP correction to get it to be like perfect, that's just part of the game, baby. That is part of the game. And I don't want to come at this like, oh, well, you have to do this. You don't. You just get those things involved with that, and you'll understand why I spent so much time doing the rest of this shit to hone it perfectly. Hook up a fucking vinyl record to it now, just play whatever, it'd be fine. They're so... And I've gotten now to the point where they are so nice to listen to, I just ignore it again. It's this weird desire to not give a shit about the hardware. That is what every audiophile should be striving for. You shouldn't want to sit down and be like, oh, I can't wait to look at my amps or look at my DAC. I don't want to see, I didn't want to see the speakers. Fucking hide them. Put a curtain in front of it. I want eventually everybody who's hearing my voice to settle on something and then just fucking pay attention to the music. Which is this S&M, Master of Puppets. I like the one that's just the instrumental, but God knows fucking Napster will come out of the grave to hurt me if I start playing that. It's weird because I'm standing way too far forward. And Creedence Clearwater is happening in this bubble in front of me. Because it's just they're doing this thing with sound. They do a thing with sound, and that's all you could really want. Here, we'll put it up to 8. I don't want to get too much copyright infringement, so we'll skip ahead. The depth in this, by the way, like, there's just like this perfect center imaging, and then occasionally there'll be like a ding, and it just goes completely over and past. There was a song that played when I first got this set up. I had to stand up and like look over here past this speaker to see if one of those speakers was like playing, and I know it wasn't. I like 100% knew as an adult human male audiophile that there's nothing over there is hooked up. But a sound was coming from a song that was happening not a little bit past the speaker, not like, oh, it was happening fucking over there. And I had to get up and walk there and then walk around the room and then sit back down. Because when you have an amazing 2-channel setup going and it's corrected and placed right, sounds can be everywhere. And like this song won't do it, but maybe this song will do it. This is from Dirac. This is Dirac. I have to finish that show. No, it's not. It's not from Dirac. What? Do-do-do-do? Do-do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do-do? Go to another song. Hold on. It's... I'm not going to sell you a set of VC2s. And you know what the worst part is? Shows aren't going to sell you a set of VC2s. Because I've heard them once at a show. I think it may have been Chicago last year. Because I couldn't walk around this year, unfortunately. And the rooms will kill a good audio setup. This room, this technically isn't a room. It's just curtains up in a massive expanding basement. But this is a great space to listen to speakers. You may not think it. You may see those shitty panels on the wall, but like, this Zeus isn't even... We got 2 carpets. What, you got 2 carpets on the ground and therefore you're good? No. The cloud that goes 2,800 square feet of fucking insulated cloud makes a huge difference. And then the carpets help. And the curtains are there. But really, the speakers that are completely symmetrical on the sides that are acting as not absorption, but diffusion, essentially. Everything here makes a difference. And I've now gotten them about as perfect as I think anyone could get a pair of speakers in my basement. I've obsessed about it. And I could tell when, I don't know how instruments are wider than a single point. Like, I'll hear someone playing drums, but it won't be like drum. It'll be drum, 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 drum. So there's like a 5-degree section of that's where the drums are. I don't know. I don't get it. So now looking at this, which this is the theme from Mysterious Island performed by whoever the fuck's performing it. I can tell that there's 2 tweeters making sound right now. But it's not in the way of each other. They're both working in collaboration. That's a lot of treble, by the way. And that's also a lot of treble, but it's also space dandy, and that's what we fucking love here on Z Reviews. So, final verdict. They're a bit pricey. I was going to say they're a bit ugly, because they kind of are a little bit ugly. They don't come with grill covers or anything. The drivers are... I wish the dust cap on that was reversed, so it matched the VC1s. I don't know if there's a reason he didn't. If you have insane amounts of money and you don't give a living shit about what some asshole on the internet's telling you, just buy them outright and try them yourself. If you get to a show and they've actually spent the time to get them worked out, listen to them, because it will not sound like the VC1s. It'll sound like this whole other speaker. And if you ever make it to my house for whatever reason, for tea and crumpets, and you want to hear some absurdity, if they're still here, I got you covered. It'd be interesting to see someone buy the VC1s and then someone build the VC2s out of like plywood. Just the ugliest plywood, because they're so fucking pretty. So yeah, and the differences between the different settings in the back. I leave it on ST because I want that super tweeter to work outright. Putting it to off is like, I don't know why. And then the harmonizing tweeter is very, very subtle differences of the way the frequency responses are interacting with each other when you're using that switch to go through with the pass-through. So it's one of those things that, like, it doesn't matter what the manual says or what anyone else tells you about it. Just turn the knob, sit down and use it for a night, and then turn the knob again and sit down and use it for the night. And if you felt like you had more fun on Tuesday than Wednesday, then you know what setting you're keeping it on. So yeah, I want to thank MON Acoustics, who have sold me those and sent me these and let me borrow those, for letting me borrow those. The fact that they're fucking silver to match is like, they don't even offer them in silver. My head exploded. Silver looks so good. I mean, why do you think I have silver linear power supply Stark Rimson Ultras sitting next to it? I got the silver set right here. This was hashtag goals. This is my OCD clicked over just a little bit. It's like, what if it was silver? All silver. Now I got to get the Musician Pegasus Silver DACs and switch those there. Which, do those have AES in? I don't think they have AES in. I could actually do coaxial digital out of this as well and do it. So yeah, this is a whole mess. But that's what you people support me on Patreon for, is to spend days and days doing stupid shit like this versus working at like a stock boy at CVS. So thank you to all my patron supporters. You've kept this channel going now for 13 years, and hopefully you'll find it in your hearts and wallets to keep it going for a little bit longer while I work on other collabs and ways to pay the bills. Waifu wallpaper in the wallpaper hoard. Links to everything you see here. I will tell them about the weird VC1+2 versus VC2+1 price discrepancy. So that probably will be sorted out. I don't know what the final price will be. Let's figure it'll be around $18,000. But I gotta say, at least I can make them sound like they're worth it. And that's not easy to do. Well, no. That wouldn't be easy to do if the speakers were crap. The fact that there's a lot of good shit in here and a little bit of hammering and tweaking and room correction can bring it out fully. Hooray. Because there's no way I'm bringing out like that boot card thing for $7,000 and be like, which one's better? These will sound better. These won't go as deep. They won't dig as hard. But oh my fucking God. Remo Williams. There's like a heart in my house right now, and this is it, and it beats.
He's chasing tomatoes, I'm just...
What? Who's chasing tomatoes? Oh, no. All right, we're ending this on Andor, Namios, the club mix. I've got to dance now. Thank you all for stopping by. Patreon and Subscribe Star. Support these videos. This is not as good a remix as the one that I actually had on Andor. $7 a month, see reviews early, participate in yard sales, get to lossless sound demos. Sound demoing this setup is going to be hilarious because it's not going to do any justice. And where the fuck do I put the mic? For $15 a month, you get into the private behind-the-scenes Telegram chat to ask me questions directly and to get into a lifetime swap meet channel to buy, sell, and trade gear. Yeah, I need a better version of this one so that I could blast it like for what's her name to dance. We're done here. I'm exhausted. I spoke a lot. I don't know how long this video was. It feels like a good 48 minutes. But when you have something this expensive and I've done so much to it and I've got to try to like explain why did you buy so many fucking amps, Cios? Because I gotta know. I gots to know. Anyway, I'm done. You're done. Basement Jackson's done. Catch you all in the next one.